The National Guard is now being deployed to multiple states and multiple cities. Also, curfews are going into effect in multiple states as well. Evacuation orders have been issued, and we are seeing brand new earthquakes hit as well. Just today, we had a big one. So let's get into all this news here. You guys can see here. Let's get into the first topic. It says the Colorado National Guard has been deployed and is now assisting with the Rio Blanco County aerial wildland fire suppression. All right, and this is due to a massive fire. This is almost a quote mega fire reaching 100,000 acres that is affecting Colorado right now. We will get into more of that in just a second. There's also evacuation orders being issued, but we are also getting reports here that President Trump is going to deploy the National Guard tomorrow. All right, up to 1,000 National Guard soldiers are going to be deployed to the streets of Washington, D.C. That's what we're getting reports of, and the FBI is actually already on the scene and setting up units across DC right now. They already have 120 units across the city. Also, curfews have gone in effect for DC as well too. You can see here's a map of the curfew, and curfews are going into effect for Cincinnati City Council. We will get into more details of all this, but I wanted to show you guys really quick too this earthquake that hit. All right, this was a pretty big boy. This was a 6.1 in Turkey that hit. All right, pretty rare earthquake, but it seems when they hit this area, they're normally pretty powerful. Do you remember this mega quake that hit Turkey about 2 years ago now, and it caused widespread devastation, right? Total changes to the geography and the land of Turkey, and lots of people lost their lives. And most of it was due to building collapse. So a lot of these buildings in this part of the world are very old and do not have any type of earthquake stability built into, or earthquake resistance built into them, right? These are old, ancient buildings, a lot of them, and when they collapse, a lot of people live in them, and it's devastating. So 6.1 in Turkey here, and we also had a rare earthquake hit in Wyoming as well too. It wasn't very big, a 3.5, but this was in Little America, Wyoming, and the reason why this is something to look out for is because this is not far from Yellowstone. This is probably a few hours drive from Yellowstone, the southern Wyoming area. All right, so kind of rare to have these earthquakes in this part of the Rocky Mountains. The Rockies are relatively stable, but we're seeing this 3.5 here. We also had some activity on the West Coast, a 2.8 in Washington, 2.6 in Washington, and a 2.5 in California, all right? But let's get into more information of these fires that are going on and these evacuations. So the National Guard has been deployed in Colorado, and this is to help with multiple massive fires that are happening. So they have been authorized by the governor, and they are sending out the CH-47 Chinook military heavy lift aircrafts, and they are using water assist and water lifts to put out the fire. Check out this fire map here. We're getting lots of air quality alerts. I thought this one was significant. We have a purple alert right now. This is in North Dakota, all right, rural areas of North Dakota, but out in the Badlands. But you can still see here 206 air quality. It's really bad, almost as high as you can get. You can get into the brown. But it says here, everyone limit or avoid outdoor physical activity. All right, we're also getting lots of reds in North Dakota as well too, and a couple other purples as well. 205 in Jamestown and a 214 in Jamestown. All right, so it says everyone limit or avoid outdoor physical activity. They're recommending people to stay inside from these fires. Pretty wild that they've gotten this bad. And look at Colorado. This is shocking that all these fires have really popped up in a relatively quick amount of time. They've all started in the past couple weeks. You can see here the Lee fire is now 113,000 acres, and it started on August 2nd. It's officially a quote mega fire now, all right? And it's been spreading like crazy due to the dry condition and winds in Colorado right now, especially western Colorado. There's not been a lot of rain, and it's been very dry, hot, and windy. Red flag warnings have been going out across the state and across the west. You can see here as well the Elk fire, not far from it, is also 14,000 acres. I always think it's just like a strange phenomenon how these fires pop up like this in clusters, but it seems to be what happens, all right? I'm not sure if these ones are natural or man-made. There hasn't been any official word on it. All right, you can see here it says undetermined still for the fire, for the cause, but I'm sure they will investigate. I guess they're saying the Elk fire is natural, most likely saying it's caused by lightning. But air quality alerts are also going out across parts of Colorado. Places like Aspen, Colorado, are in the red. It says everyone should take precautions by reducing outdoor activity and go inside to cleaner air. And parts of Denver are also getting air quality alerts. Southern Colorado as well too. Fires are breaking out and smoke alerts have been issued. So these fires are popping up all over. You can see Arizona, New Mexico. There's a lot of fires. The Grand Canyon is on fire right now. There's a quote mega fire happening there right now. The Dragon Bravo fire just keeps growing. It's now 143,000 acres. All right, so this is part of the reason the National Guard has been deployed, is to tackle these fires and to help stop the spread. All right, I will keep you guys updated on the situation, and you remember here that a walking in the woods ban was issued as well for Nova Scotia. All right, so we could potentially see things like this popping up in the U.S. where officials start trying to limit certain outdoor activities. All right, we could see things like that happen in the U.S. if these fires continue to grow and become a concern. And it's only August, and this could continue and is most likely going to continue for at least months. All right, let's get into some other news here. You can see here there's lots of flooding, flash flooding, and mass flooding happening right outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. All right, you can see here's some footage from today, August 10th, Sunday, of this flooding happening. Crazy flows moving through the outer cities around Milwaukee, and this is due to the rivers and streams all reaching a critical point where they can no longer hold any more water. All right, so they're starting to overflow, and this is where you're seeing these flash flooding events happening, because all the water is flowing down from the hills and accumulating towards the bottom, the lower elevation cities that are closer to the lakes. All right, because the rivers, creeks, a lot of them flow downwards from the hills to the lakes. So pretty crazy stuff going on right now in Wisconsin, and flooding like you've really never seen. This is hurricane level flooding that you would normally see from things like storm surge from the ocean and lots of water being pushed up, but this is just all fresh water, not even salt water, from creeks and rivers. So I think that's one of the craziest parts, and it's just another city in another part of the country that's experiencing this flash flooding. Georgia was getting hit hard just last week with northern Georgia with this extreme flash flooding, and there's also flash flooding warnings going out for Florida over the next week because lots of tropical storms, tropical depressions are forming in the Atlantic currently and are currently moving towards Florida and could potentially even strengthen into a hurricane. All right, low probability, and the models are still kind of far out right now, but there's definitely going to be lots of rain, bare minimum, and potentially flooding and water accumulation throughout parts of Florida, especially the eastern coast along the Atlantic. They're going to get hit the hardest. All right, so lots of flooding. Let me know if you're seeing this in your area. Let's actually watch this clip really here quick, just giving some more information on this flooding that's happening. And they're actually saying that they think a lot of the flooding is coming from the sewer systems being clogged up with trash. All right, that's what officials were reporting. A lot of people were talking about it, saying that the sewers are blocked and it's preventing. Obviously, when the flooding is this high, all right, this is like 3 or 4 feet high. I can't tell exactly, but when it's this high, there's probably nothing you can do. But they're saying certain areas are getting flooded because of the way the city's treated and the way there's not a cleanup effort really around the city, and this trash accumulates, and then when it rains and floods like this, it washes away, but it clogs up all the sewer and drain systems. Let's watch this really quick, and then we will talk more about what's going on with the National Guard being deployed to DC and these curfew zones. There's curfews in Cincinnati, there's curfews in DC right now, and this is due to the extreme levels of violence that they are dealing with. But let's watch this really quick, and then we will talk more about these other news stories that are going on too. Watch this.
Sunday, to continue to follow that breaking news tonight at 5. A state of emergency is now in effect across Milwaukee County because of this record flash flooding across the area. We have seen cars abandoned in the streets, basements flooding, parking lots turned into ponds. Take a look at some of the video we have been receiving all night, all morning, all day from southeast Wisconsin. It is flooding unlike we have ever seen before in some areas. We have team coverage for you tonight from West Dallas to Waukesha. We're going to get out to those impacted areas in just a moment, but we have to start tonight in the weather office where our weather experts have been covering this storm since the beginning. Let's get to Chief Meteorologist Tom Wachs. And Tom, you basically spent the night here tracking this. Looks like there is some truth to the fact that this is an historic storm.
It is, and Sam, this could end up being the state record for the most rain in 24 hours. Let me show you here rain totals. And you got to see this. As no surprise when you're going to see all of the horrific flooding that we've had. But look at this. So this number here from Milwaukee is from 81st and Florist, so the northwest side of Milwaukee. 14 and a half inches of rain. Now, if that gets verified by the state climatological office, which will take several days, this will be the most rain the state of Wisconsin has seen in any 24-hour time period. The last record was from way up in northern Wisconsin at over 11 inches back in 1946. So this would shatter that. But that gives you an idea of how rare this is. I mean, to see rainfall totals anywhere above 10 inches is extremely rare. And I think this puts it into perspective. This is the area of 7 inches or greater, or as high as 14 in some areas. But look at the colors on the map, because that really gives you an idea of who had the most rain. And northern Waukesha into Milwaukee counties were the hardest hit from this storm. It just didn't stop raining. And this is why we have a flood warning in effect for many of these areas until 7 o'clock tonight. It's not for any rain that's falling. It's for the fact that roads are still flooded and rivers continue to rise. And some of our rivers could reach record stage here as we go through the night tonight and into tomorrow. So it's going to take a while. The rivers are going to go up and then eventually come back down. So be careful there as well. Flood watch for all of us. That runs until tomorrow morning. Not much.
All right, so you heard that there. That's what's going on right now in Milwaukee. He said this is record-breaking floods that are happening, could potentially break the state record. And how many times have we heard this over the past few years especially? And this year, every single week, I've been reporting almost how there's a record-setting flood, a 100-year flood, a 1,000-year flood, a 50-year flood, whatever it is. I believe he said their last record was from 1946. Okay, so what is that, an 80-year flood almost? Okay, so it's almost close to a 100-year flood. that is happening here. And we keep seeing this time after time, city after city, state after state. It keeps getting a lot worse. And for some reason, even in places like where you just don't expect it, Milwaukee, right? You really don't expect flooding to happen there. It's not typically an area that you think is going to flood or have a hurricane or anything like that. I'm sure people there do not have flood insurance, and they could be, a lot of people could be screwed over, right, in this area. You can see here, this is being reported tonight, just came out. This is breaking news. Listen here really quick.
Just received into our newsroom. So we're getting this information from multiple sources, both with Mayor Bowser and with MPD, telling us that as of 6 o'clock this evening, they strongly believe, sources both within the mayor's office and within Metro Police Department, that President Trump, come tomorrow, will deploy the National Guard along the streets of D.C. That is the information that is now coming into our newsroom about what is likely to happen tomorrow at that news conference. That, again, the president is expected to deploy the National Guard, the D.C. National Guard, in and around Washington. This, from what we're being told at this point, has never happened before and would mark a significant turn in events. But no doubt, the continuation of what has been several days of an escalation by the White House to officials in D.C.
All right, so he said this has never happened before, but I mean, the National Guard has been deployed to D.C. before. Just 4 years ago, in 2020, they had thousands of National Guard that were all over D.C., and they were literally like sleeping in, like in the Capitol building and near like statues and like near the Lincoln Memorial and things like that. They were just sleeping on the ground with sleeping bags and things like that because there were so many National Guardmen that there weren't enough hotels and things for them. So it's not, at least from my knowledge, I've seen and I've reported on the National Guard being in DC multiple times. So they've definitely been deployed here. Maybe not for the specific cause to specifically crack down on crime and violence in the city, but they've definitely been deployed there. And there's also been FBI agents deployed there too. You can see here up to 120 dispatch agents and overnight shifts to help local law enforcement to prevent carjackings and violent crime in D.C., according to two people familiar with the president. All right, so Trump's threatening a complete federal takeover of D.C., and here is a curfew map of D.C. So anyone that is a, quote, juvenile, so under the age of 18, cannot be in this zone. You can see here from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. There's a juvenile curfew zone, and then there's actually a citywide curfew from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. All right, so citywide curfew going into effect too from Sunday, August 10th to Wednesday, August 13th. Citywide curfew takes effect at conclusion of the zone at 11 p.m. So something to be aware of, something to know about if you live in this area. You cannot be driving around or walking around unless you have a, quote, legitimate reason. There's a few reasons, like work, doctor's appointment, medical emergencies, things like that. But anything that's not necessary, they're going to be like cracking down on you and maybe pulling you over and checking to see, making sure you're not actually, doing anything you're not supposed to be doing. So it kind of just gives them the excuse to, check your papers, check your license, pull you over, check your car, things like that. So if you don't have to be out at this time, it's best to stay home, right? And it's honestly, dangerous to probably be out around this time anyways in these bigger cities, all right? So curfew in effect for all of DC. And this is being put out by the Metropolitan Police too. So this isn't even by federal authorities. This is by the DC police. So I think a coordination is already happening behind the scenes between federal and DC police. And I think they're going to give them a lot of resources and a lot of money and a lot of personnel to really clamp down in DC. And I mean, Trump does make a good point. This is our capital city. This should be a pristine and clean, safe place to go. You know, it's like people come from all over the world to DC to see our monuments, to see our country. And it should be safe. It should be a little, a little safe haven, a little utopia in the midst of everything else. All right, it should feel safe there. And we have our top politicians there. It's kind of, all this chaos is going around near our entire Congress, entire Senate, and our president. And our military. A lot of our military installations are right here as well too. And you can't have this type of lawlessness right next to the presidency, right? The most powerful presidency in the world. It's kind of is a disconnect, right? To say the least, to have, these things going on in DC when it's supposed to be our capital city. It's supposed to be our prized possession here. So just be aware, all right, of these curfews. If you're out and about, they're definitely going to an 8 p.m. for juveniles as well too. So no teenagers after 8 p.m. and even adults. Also, Cincinnati is implementing a curfew as well too. You can see your Cincinnati City Council approves new curfew for younger residents. It says the curfew is in effect from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. every single day. It says there's a different curfew for, quote, special curfew districts, which include over the Rhine and the Central Business District. The council outlined what happened to a child if they violate curfew. And they also have exceptions. So there are exceptions if the minor's with an adult, if there's emancipated, there's emergencies, they're driving on an interstate, they're being going to or from work, exercising First Amendment rights, attending school, things like this. So there are legitimate reasons, but they have a legitimate reason now to pull you over and just check you out as well too. So it's just something to think about. You kind of lose some of your rights when these curfews are in effect. And it says police can detain the individual if a child refuses to go home or doesn't listen to officers. And it says here, once the child is taken to the curfew center, staff will contact a parent. If a child is facing outstanding charges, police will pick them up. And adults or guardians will receive a written warning. After the first offense, the child could be charged with a misdemeanor, right? So that's pretty serious. They're even going as far to say you could be charged with the crime. And I think in DC, you can even be charged with the crime from this curfew as well too. Let me double check that really quick. If Washington DC curfew can give you charges. Just double check that. It's saying here that you can face a fine up to $500, and the curfew violations can stack on top of each other. So it just depends how many times you get caught, how cooperative you are, things like that, it seems like. So it's best to just stay home, especially if you have kids. Make sure you know where your kids are. Sometimes kids sneak out the house, right? That's what they do. And just make sure you know where they're at, all right? You don't want them getting caught up in this, caught up with a bunch of National Guard soldiers or FBI or whoever, some type of federal authorities, and then they face federal charges, all these things. It's going to be a lot worse of a situation if you get into trouble here, all right? So let me know what you guys think down below, all right? Lots of stuff going on I will keep you guys updated on all this big news that is happening around the country. All right, we're having evacuations, we're having National Guard deployments, curfews going into effect, earthquakes hitting. All right, lots of big things going on. So just make sure you're prepared, make sure you're ready, make sure you're staying safe and stocked up and ready to go if you need to stay inside your house for a couple days, couple weeks, or just you're not able to leave. Maybe the roads are flooded, maybe the roads are destroyed, maybe they're blocked. Maybe there's some crazy like protest or riots or something along these lines, civil unrest happening, and it's not safe to leave. All right, so just make sure. Maybe there's a big earthquake. Maybe there's flooding that washed out the roads. Maybe there's a big earthquake, destroyed the infrastructure, hurricane, winds, a fire, right? Maybe you have to leave because the fires are near you. Just have some backups, all right? I have like a backup battery, all right? Little solar generator battery. A big generator definitely helps too, gas generator. A little mini Starlink. Lots of food, canned food, dry food, water storage, water filters. Just have some like basic necessity things so you can at least get through a few weeks if, it hits the fan in your area, right? Most likely it's, unless there's some type of massive World War III situation and the entire country is affected at once, most likely if it hits the fan, it's going to be localized to your area. The country is so big and massive that, these things typically only affect regional areas, all right? Regional flooding, regional lockdowns, regional deployments of National Guard, regional evacuations. Normally it's not the entire country being affected unless it's something big. So just know your area, know what you need to survive. Make sure you're stocked up. Think about your animals too, your dogs, dog food, cat food, rabbit food, whatever you got. Make sure you got some stuff for them. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared out there. Hope you have big blessings for your life and your family. And I hope you have a big old blessed day.